Good evening. You're listening to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm choking on it here, RDV, and hopefully I won't die here in the Extreme Studios in Extreme Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, as we continue our Season 1, Episode 25 and 26 review of Mission Impossible. It's almost like I did get a cube of sugar here in my tea that might be LSD laced because that's one of the episodes. And Professor Pixel Young 20-something, I'm glad you're joining me because as we're winding down with the last 4 episodes of Mission Impossible Season 1, one of the things I've noticed about reviewing TV shows is that when you watch them again, or sometimes for the first time, and maybe your case a little bit, and sometimes mine, you recognize instead of the main actors, what's going on in the same story, you recognize other things. And in episode 25 here, there were 2 people that I'm like, who the F are these dudes? One of them would be the dastardly, not cop, but the bad dude, if like for lack of a better term, on the Dukes of Hazzard is in this episode, and also one of the better episodes of Star Trek. I just have to say, I don't want to rant for a minute, and I'm gonna hand it over to you to get us going in this episode. There's an episode of TOS, the original Star Trek series, where Kirk, Spock, a bunch of them are going down this planet. They need to get some crystals for some energy, but the planet's not, doing too well or whatever. And they're under a time crunch. And he made a guy that has this incredibly good taste. I think it's called Requiem for Methuselah, who, of course, if you're biblical in nature, know that Methuselah lived a very long time. And there's a gentleman that, like, he knew how to, like, play pool, snooker, whatever you want to call it. He could draw a little bit, he could play something, and the clues are starting to pile up. Spock's like, this is something written in the penmanship of bronze, but I'm familiar with it, and I don't know this particular piece. And he plays it. It's like, that's his style. Well, how old is the manuscript, Spock? Well, it seems to be fresh. Same thing with painting this and that. And this guy gives a great speech here at the end about how he is all these people, about how he was felled in battle by an arrow but did not die. And so he ended up being all these great people all rolled up into one during a mankind civilization on Earth. And I thought, that's a fucking great idea. And I'm watching this episode here, which we'll talk some specifics. And I thought, what is it about the way this guy is speaking that's distracting me from the whole episode? Because it's not a bad episode. I kind of like it, actually. We say that a lot about these episodes. And I'm going, oh my God, it's Methuselah from Star Trek. And I could not pay attention to this episode because the way this guy talks, it's like some people have a certain cadence. You have a great Christopher Walken impersonation, which is surprising considering your age. And everybody has their own little ways that they talk and they would speak. And when somebody's going to do something. That Jim Carrey... and then he, exhales, a bunch of diarrhea. But this guy talking, I'm like, he's not a bad actor. He's not a bad looking guy. I don't know how popular he was as a role player on TV shows, but we've said the strength of Mission Impossible is not just the chemistry and the interchangeability of the lead characters. It all has to do with the strength of some of their bad guys. Ricardo Montalban being the most notable one a few episodes ago. But for me, it's been kind of plain Jane lately until this episode. And I was like, wow, this is a nice, refreshing change of pace that you can start to connect and recognize, hey, this person's going to be in it. It's going to be a pretty good episode. That being said, I still like our little setup here, watching Dan do stuff, seeing them swing signals, bachelor pad, and the crew getting involved in here. What's your take on this?
Yeah, no, you're talking about James Daly, right?
I believe that's his name. I'm trying to look it up. Yeah.
He was in the episode Requiem for Methuselah.
That's it then. Mr. James Daly, sir.
Yes. He does.
Yep.
He does a fantastic job on this episode, because I'm pretty sure he's playing Dan too for a good portion of it.
Well, hey, now let's get into the episode. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, an American envoy kidnapped and has been replaced by this criminal that's disguised so that they can assassinate a diplomat. And the team basically has to get together, stop this assassination attempt, and go ahead and find the real missing American envoy. But really, it's just a fun episode to go ahead and give Dan something to do while not having Dan in the episode for most of it.
Well, we had mentioned before about how off-screen the actor, I think, had written in his contract Friday off to observe religious reasons why and all that became an issue. That's why we're starting to see him less and less. So you're right, it continues here.
Yeah. It does have a I have one complaint about this episode.
What's that?
Is that we didn't get a little more fake Dan. We get it towards the beginning when they go ahead and do the swap. And then towards the end when they complete the mission. But the rest of this episode is torturing the real Jim Daly. Like totally.
We haven't had a lot of torture. You think about all the stuff that's gone on. We have not really had a lot of that, right?
No, we've had
Ricardo.
a couple.
Yeah.
We've had a couple, but they go ahead and they just straight up torture this guy and they break him. And then do they kill him and then place his body there? They kill him, don't they? Jeez, this is like dark shit happening and nobody cares. It's like, haha, we completed our mission. Straight up tortured and killed a guy. At that point, he wanted to die. But oh my god, it is a really good episode. I'm not Cinnamon playing the niece. Listen, I love Cinnamon. She's a lovely woman, but they keep saying that she's like, especially in this episode, they keep saying, "Oh, she's this really young thing." No, she's not. I mean, she's not like middle aged or anything, but she's not like. Sometimes they play her off younger than she can play.
She's got to be like late 20s, I'm guessing. I don't really know for that, but she figured she has a career, or maybe is at the end part of her modeling career, and so she does this on the side. But she would have had to have been trained and everything too. So, but she looks. I've talked about her outfits. I was thinking, I could almost see her as like a little blonde Sherlock Holmesian kind of thing because of the one thing she has. But she's got this red outfit on later on that's just hubba hubba. I'm like, wow, you got to wear that red dress more often. My God. The other thing too with this episode is. And we'll talk about here in a few minutes, the next episode with the LSD and the sugar cube stuff, is, we talk about the 60s and counterculture and communism being the big enemy, at least here in the United States as far as a worldview. But the countercultural thing was usually against big government and conspiracy type government stuff. I think people may think about it a little differently today, but there was definitely a more willingness to understand that there's other things that go out there, such as drugs and alternative lifestyles and the like. And so here, even though they're torturing a guy and doing stuff with him, it couldn't help made me think of when you and I had covered season 1 of The Prisoner, where we talked about a lot of heavy conspiracy stuff. And there's some bad episodes in that, but the ones that are really solid deal with a lot of the whole mental paranoia of what happens to you and how good Drake was at being number 6, and if you think he's the same character as in Danger Man, which a lot of people do, but here you brought up a really good point with it, that there is dark shit in here, and mostly they've been fun kind of brainless episodes, popcorn, but here there is an element of that whole sinister espionage stuff that was always real, whether you're somebody that knows all stuff about MK Ultra, Project Paperclip, all these dark, devious things that the government did to people, specifically if they were runaways, African Americans, women, poor, drug addicts, prostitutes, you name it, they got experimented on, and it was nothing new by the 60s. So to see this episode kind of, like you say, do some of that stuff, I was like, huh. Well, was this writer just triggered, and decided to write a kind of a heavy episode? Because again, I'm looking at the one dude, I'm like, okay, that's the guy kind of sort of boss in Dukes of Hazzard, so it's hard for me to take that apart. Cinnamon's not dressed classy in here. She is, but the red in her hair up, she looks like a sex god, right? It's very distracting. It's not classy like everybody else is in here. And I'm like, man, and then, the actor whose name you just mentioned, James Daly, he's got a nice swagger about him too. That's just very, he floats as he walks across the room, and there's plenty of people that have this.
He floats as he's tortured across the room too.
Well, yeah, that's true, but it is a bit more of a haunting episode, I think is the way to describe it. Would you?
Yeah. Dark shit is happening throughout the episode. Like, he's being physically tortured, mentally tortured. He's tortured just completely. When they start doing that swooshy camera effect to make it like, oh
Yeah.
no, the nausea, it's coming in. It's like, oh my God, what are they doing? These are supposed to be the protagonists that we're supporting here, but it's
Hey,
pretty
nobody should be
rough.
assassinating anybody unless it's our guys, because we're right. Because they just do what they're told. They never question it. That's the whole point. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
They've been doing this whole series, right? Your mission, should you choose to accept it, which of course they always do. But it's interesting because at this point we're pretty much at the end, and we're like, okay, are they going to try to have a couple episodes that get a little more meta and take us into season 2 and leave us on a cliffhanger? Or are they not going to do it? Or are we going to see some personal things come up, for characterization purposes? And we haven't. We've seen a lot of different the past few episodes, characters coming in and out a lot, not being consistent, even though it's a special guest star. It's the Roland Hand show, and Cinnamon's like, one B to his 1A. So in here, it's a strong episode, but as much as I like the Ricardo Montalban episode, I would say that's one of the better episodes out of all the rest. But this one stands out because you're right. It's different than the others. This one's not a laugh riot. It's not a grab your popcorn and have a few chuckles because they're going to go do something silly at a clown show. They're going to go whack somebody, and it's you're right. It's interesting. I got to say that it's heavy, man, to use a '60s term.
The next one it kind of pales in comparison. It's still a good episode. There has not been a single bad episode of this show. There's not been a single bad episode. But this next one is far weaker in certain regards. Because that, like you said, a cube of sugar.
And I wondered, I love the title, A Cube of Sugar, because it's so innocuous. It's so transparent. But I just wondered if the one-word name, Sugar Cube, would have been better. And I was thinking about that the whole time when I watched this episode. Like, did they do it right? Did they not? I mean, it's not bad. I agree with you. I think it's a pretty decent one too. But having LSD being exposed to the people in the masses on television, somewhat bold at the time. But go ahead, get us started.
Yeah. So basically, their mission this time is to infiltrate a prison where an American agent has been taken on drug charges, but for espionage reasons, because in the drugs he has a microchip hidden. So we have the team splitting in two. Roland Hand is going to be getting this agent basically ready to not even escape. I'm trying to remember what he was doing this entire time. Was he just distracting? Just distracting while they went ahead and made the cremation machine, the furnace, inoperable? Was he just a distraction? He's not even. He's just there to be tortured too.
You know what? This would have been an all-timer if this episode had torture in it as well.
It has slight hints of look.
Well, they're trying to get the guy out, is what it is. So
yeah.
They've got to get in first to get him out.
But really do that? Oh yeah, because they have to fake. That's what he was doing. Yeah. He breaks in to go ahead and spike one of the drugs that they go ahead and pump him full of to keep him in his state to appear dead. So that way they take him to the crematorium and just go ahead, pop him in, but it's not operable because Barney and Strongman have gone ahead and they made it so it doesn't work. They have a little fire thing that they put in front of the window. There you go. And meanwhile, Cinnamon is just talking to the main big bad who's keeping him locked away, breaking these men, as she's posing as the wife of the agent. But she has a ring to pick up a microchip, a white microchip. Imagine if the guy snorted it. Just what's that? Don't know.
She's looking good in her pink outfit when. Well, I was going to ask you because obviously you've seen this in movies, so you obviously being as young as you are, you don't remember any of this or the tail ends of it. But what'd you think of the whole kind of I don't know what to call it. The hippie studio where she's sitting there smoking when she meets the dude, and you got the one chick
Good
dancing in the
God.
back. I'm looking at this going, how bad this is, like college level set design. It's so distracting how like that when the episode starts off and they're going into like the sewer or whatever, and they're going through the big explanation of everything.
See,
I thought two things. One, I'd love to see more of Mission Impossible having to operate in suburban elements, which we have not had, which is disappointing. And obviously, logistically, it'd be kind of tough for the show to do. But two, by this point, though, and we did not bring this up, even though we talked about the prisoner being like an intelligent kind of spy show with its own way, not necessarily anti-gun, but you have to use your brains going up against the man sort of thing. Strong libertarian themes, personal freedom, and all that stuff. Choice. Here, this is more of an action kind of show, right? And I'm watching this going, I like some of the stuff they come in here. I'm not going to say it's pro-American, but it's just commies again are the bad guys. But now they're starting to tackle certain things, and not just third world dictators or people that can get bombs that can upset the balance of power around the world, according to whoever signs them these government agency tasks. But we see here LSD, something that where drugs are really part of the culture. And the other big thing too, I want to kind of bring up here, I thought about with this episode is the beginning when they talk a little bit about stuff, and we've never mentioned this before. There's been a few episodes where they're in Dan's swinging singles bachelor pad, and they're glossing over the episode base so they can tell the audience what's going to happen. They have done what I like to call the Q Gambit, where not the Queen's Gambit, chess people. Queen's Gambit declined, thank you. But they kind of do the Q thing like out of James Bond, where they kind of talk about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and then they'll show it to you a little bit logistically. And I thought in this episode, I wonder how much the show was influenced by James Bond. We've never brought that up because I felt like here this was a little bit more of a shit. We've seen this episode before, right? They're gonna have to save somebody this time. They're gonna have to break into it again. Oh no, we didn't see that a few episodes ago, but it feels a little different because of the background and setup. But it seemed a little technical too with stuff. Maybe it's because they're talking about the microchip and all that stuff, which at the time that was a big friggin' deal, right? I mean, chips had only been around maybe 10, 20 years, I guess, at that point, if that. So it was kind of interesting, but they gloss over, right? Just for the sake of having a TV episode.
So at the same time as this season, because this season came out 1969?
66, I think. 66 or 67.
66. So Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and Thunderball had premiered.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, that's pretty much
That's
it.
good
But
shit.
at least this isn't as ridiculous as Q's weapons are sometimes.
Or got to be, because they weren't early on. Yeah, exactly.
They started to like early on though, like not at the beginning, but as soon as they got to like Goldfinger, they were like, you know what? Let's just be silly with it. Let's just have a fun
It's a damn
time.
British sense of humor.
Let's get goofy. Oh, this is going to be a riot, isn't that right? Yes.
Well, what also stood out, I think, in this episode too is we've talked before about Barney, right? How he's there, he's the technical speak guy, the engineer kind of guy. The most character development he had was the fact that he got his ass whipped earlier, and he meets up with Ricardo. But since then, nothing's really happened, and he's involved in this episode here. But again, it's like, why do we care? But the other thing that too is Willie's back, and other than the fun kind of lighthearted circus episode where he gets to act like he's a strong man, because in real life this actor's is a jack motherfucker, and he's still around, I believe. He's in his 90s. No, he's a fit dude. He's in here and he's a good looking guy, and and you could look at him and go, well, if you want to just make him a typical heavy or something, that's fine. But I'm realizing this season's almost over, and he's done two things: jack and shit. I mean, seriously, it's like, come on, you got Willie, use him. Let's do something. They better.
Well, there's two things to talk about, because he does have a scene with like the kids that almost get. Oh, look, the torture's going on in there.
Yeah.
But then in the second episode that we're talking about today, 26, he has a different picture. He's no longer the strong man. They go ahead and have a facial profile. So, I mean, no, they haven't done anything with him. He's not going to do anything.
Well, it's just like in Chesapeake Shore season 1 on the Hallmark Channel. They start off with the one dude that's got a beautiful like golden lab or something, and then the second episode they switch it out for a German Shepherd, and that's not continuity for damn sake. I'm just going to put that out there. I knew I could stun you, bro.
You broke me.
I did.
You broke me because I don't. Are you watching Chesapeake Shore?
I am not, sir, but one of our members here on the Extreme Movie Show brought that up to my attention, so I thought I'd share it because Max and Daisy, my German Czechoslovakian short-head red non-working line animals that patrol the grounds here of the Pine Hills Estate, keep me safe. I caught them watching it one time, with my wife, and so they were pointing it out to me. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get that. I'll mention it next time I talk. So anyway, but let's continue with the episode, shall we?
I think we're at the end. It pretty much, they get the chip, they get the guy. Oh, he's going to wake up in an hour, and they leave in a car again.
That's kind of true. We're not done because I want to talk about one more thing.
Go ahead.
I'm getting tired of them taking Rollin, and just when I think he's a nice dude and a good dude, and I kind of like him, he just has to go show off and show us how good he is. Because this time he, does the escape trick sort of kind of thing, and it's like, God damn it! Will you just give him something that he fails at? I mean, it's like, well, we need to do this in episode, and we only have these guys, so we'll get Rollin at it, and we'll just get him to do everything. He's like Mikey, but you don't know that Cinnamon Life Toast Crunch reference at all. They're from the 70s. Everybody likes them. It's like, oh Christ, I wonder how season 2 and 3 are going to go with him and everybody else, because he's out after think 3 seasons, him and Cinnamon, as far as the actors. And I mentioned that she's wearing pink in here. Yeah, we're pretty much at the end, sir. Finish it up for us.
Basically, that's it. There are 2 solid episodes. One's a little different, a little bit more different than the other, because they torture a guy and kill him and put him on a table. But
it'd been more fun if they tortured somebody with LSD in this episode, But did we see a little more torture too?
Can I have a double order of torture today, please?
No, that's what I'm saying. That would have kicked ass, right?
I mean, yeah, why not? And it's not even. We said this at the beginning. There's a good chance that we might get tired of it. I'm not tired of this. I'm not I enjoyed these episodes. I enjoyed this series, but we're towards the end. We know what we're expecting, and that's fine. As long as it's consistent quality, that's what matters. It's not like we're dealing with the 2 brothers on Twin Peaks season 2 and their stupid feud that we don't give a shit about.
I do. I don't know what your side you're on, but
fuck off. What are you talking about? You do.
Man, I can't wait to revisit that. Yeah, it's interesting because it's really not. It's really when I heard LSD and all that stuff, I was intrigued, right? And then when we get like to the goofy dance kind of scene, sort of stuff, bar and all that, the hippie counterculture scene at the time, I'm like, okay, they're leaning into it. It's like it's at that time the modern day opium den or whatever. I think we see the mask in this episode too, or a mask. I just was hoping that it would have continued, because when something goes really, really good, you want more of it, right? And so after that first episode, and I've noticed too that in a couple of these episodes, we're saying, man, this is a really strong episode, and the second episode may not be. It's kind of like one of them is almost a little darker than the other. It's not that it's better because it's got a better act or something, but there's something a little bit more to it. And I thought, shit, they're going to throw LSD in here after a torture episode. Fuck yeah, give it to me. And it's really not. It's just a grab them and get them out of here. It's an extraction episode, right? It's one of those, like if you're playing your video game, you got to go fetch something. That's one thing. If you got to extract something, that's another. It's like you've done it once or twice. You're like, yeah, okay, you get it. And it's like, you're right. It's decent for what it is. And that's pretty much it there too. But not too bad. Was not disappointed. I'm glad to see Cinnamon starting to flex her fashionista sense here, because for a little while that had been absent, I would say too. But very leggy in here. I got one more thing I want to say for the next couple episodes as we finish up. episodes, was it 27, 28, I think here, the last couple episodes in season 1 of the original Mission Impossibles, I want to see the swinging singles bachelor pad being used as an episode, not just for a front at the beginning where we're all sitting around in suits, having scotch and smoking cigarettes and going over the case file and then throwing in some Q gadgets. I want something to happen like they all get a call from him to come in on something and he's not there, and then they got to look for him, and you get to go see, what his bedroom looks like or what the kitchen looks like, or maybe there's a spy in it or something, or God forbid the old sniper out of the window into the living room shot trick like they did so well in The World Is Not Enough, by the way. And no, I'm not digressing, but I feel at this point, the remaining episodes we have, they're not going to be anything different. What do you think?
No. I think it's pretty much the same, except we have Eartha Kitt next week. So that's great.
All right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Episodes 25 and 26, Season 1, Mission Impossible, here on Extreme TV. I'm your host, Rob, alongside with the young Professor Pixel. Thanks for watching, listening. We'll be doing a different TV show in a few weeks once this one's wrapped up here. I'm looking forward to that. Could be a short one, could be a long one, could be a couple of shorts and a long. I do not know, but I know it will be extreme.
I know there's a show that has 1,225 episodes that I'm dying to rewatch.
And I understand that as well, and that would be quite the undertaking that at some point here we'll probably do on the Extreme Movie Show. It probably won't be the next show, but I like your thinking. And for those who know the references Dark Shadows, we have done the revival as well as the Dan Curtis film with Jack Palance, so check those out here on the channel. Good night now.
Good night. This was